So that second quote, or that second story about her inviting him, just to give you an idea that these are actually found in these books, it's from one of the Harry Potter books called The Chamber of the Secrets. She has invited him that if he dies and needs a place to stay as an undead person, that he can feel free to join her in the toilet in the girls' bathroom. So now you have a little idea about Harry Potter. There's also a trick in this book where they try to convince the reader to differentiate between good and bad magic, between white magic or positive magic, helpful magic, and dark arts, the dark magic, the black magic, evil magic that is harmful. So they convince you, they try throughout the whole series of the books to convince you that there is good magic and bad magic. However, the line between them becomes murky many times throughout the book. And of course, as Muslims on our deen, holding to the guidance that Allah sent us, we are not convinced even from the get-go that there is a difference between good and bad magic. That both kinds of magic, if we accept that there is good and bad magic, both are disbelief, and both will take a person outside of Islam. But even the people who try to convince you that dark magic is evil and white magic is good, they say, and this is taken from a summary of the magic used in the Harry Potter series, the dark arts differ from other forms of magic in the intent of the wizard using it. Most magic is relatively neutral. It can be used for good or bad. Some magic, however, is evil in its intention through and through. Spells of this kind are often called curses. Curses are spells that are often intended to cause harm to another person. This intention to do harm places that spell into the realm of the dark arts. So the same spell, according to them, becomes black magic or dark arts with the intention of the person casting the spell. So in actuality, it is the same spell being done, but sometimes it is considered dark arts and sometimes it is considered white magic, depending on the intention. So perhaps they're going by the hadith. However, when you look at this theory and investigate it, you find clearly that it is just a way to convince you or to appeal to your fitrah that you are inclined towards good things and you're inclined against evil things, that there is a good side of magic. However, we see that the difference between good and bad magic becomes murky, becomes unclear, where it's the same action, the same spell, the same curse, the same action, use of the wand or whatever, but it becomes good magic because of a person's good intention, and it becomes bad magic because of a person's ill intention to harm someone. So there we see an attempt to confuse people about the reality of magic, that there is good magic and bad magic. However, when they define the difference between good magic and bad magic, the line is not at all clear. And we find the same action can be described as good magic or bad magic. Let me also present to you some of the kinds of magic that are in the Harry Potter books. The kinds of magical spells, the kinds of magic that a person reads about, reading a Harry Potter book, sometimes in great detail. Sometimes being able to actually learn from the book how to cast a spell, or how to read tea leaves, or how to tell the future. Recipes for spells and for potions. There is something called divination, which is seeing the future, or seeing into the future. And in the Harry Potter books, it is divided into 3 kinds. The first kind is a weaker kind that the beginning students learn, but it's not relied upon, and it's not very effective. The second kind is what's practiced when some of the characters start teaching classes, as they say in the spring of 1996, and there's a timeline going on of when Harry Potter goes from grade to grade and advances from level to level as a magician. So he's taught the second level of telling the future and foreseeing events. And still it is not entirely reliable according to the teachings of the book. That which is really reliable is the third type, called seeing. He's a seer, and his action is seeing. He can see into the future, as he claims. The seer, they say, possesses an inner eye. He does not have control over what he sees. For example, one of the teachers of Harry Potter that we mentioned, Trelawney, he made prophecies twice using this magical spell, although plenty of claims about, there are some problems, that there is some, some need for interpretation for the meanings of what he has relayed about the future. They say true seeing is very rare, but it happens a few times in each century. And they keep the records of the actual events of this kind of seeing, of this kind of fortune telling. They keep records of it in the library, in the magic school. Other techniques that they use for fortune telling, a severe form of disbelief in Islam. They use astrology. They use the trails of birds and the directions and the paths of the birds, which is from the Jahiliyyah of the Arabs as well. That they would consider the day a good day if the bird went to the right, and consider the day a bad day or a bad day to travel if the bird went off to the left. They would use playing cards, many times dipped in blood, a crystal ball, dream interpretation, fire omens, the reading of palms, and the reading of tea leaves. Each and every one being identified in the books of the scholars of Islam as actual, true ways of kuhana, of fortune telling, which is an act of disbelief. Each and every one that we have mentioned here is in fact identified in the books of the scholars of Islam as one of the ways that the magicians use to try to interpret what's happening in the future. Even it goes so far, the books go so far, and this should really bring home a reality that perhaps we may have missed about the filth of these books. A person can read, for example, in the book called Unfogging the Future, page 5 and 6, he can read actually how to interpret tea leaves, how to read tea leaves, and how to interpret the symbols and signs found in tea leaves that will tell the future. He can read in detail. An acorn means this, a cross means this, such and such of a symbol means this. He can learn 7, 8, 9 different types of symbols that he can look for in the tea leaves. And he can use them to foresee the future. And this is one of the ways that magicians request help from the jinn and from the shayateen to claim knowledge of the future. As well, astrology is used in the book, as we mentioned, by Harry Potter. It's something he begins to learn early in his journeys, early in his stages of learning magic. The study of astrology, according to the astrology used in the book, it requires a careful study of star charts relating to the date of a person's birth. The students in Trelawney's divination classes, in the fortune-telling classes, have to create complicated charts and determine which planets were where and how that all affects their lives. Based on astrological signs, the teacher suggests that Harry must have been born in the winter time. As we mentioned, or as we need to mention here, the Prophet ﷺ relayed to us from Allah Azza wa Jal a very important hadith about the stars and how the Muslim is to understand the stars above him. The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah Azza wa Jal said, this morning, some of my servants have woken up kafirs and believers. He went on to clarify, saying, the one who said, we have received the rain because of such and such formation of the stars, he has disbelieved in me and he has believed in the stars. And the one who says, we have received the rain because of the bounties of Allah, then he has believed in me and he has disbelieved in the stars. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is teaching us here that the formations of the stars and the heavenly bodies above us, they do not determine the rain, they do not give us provisions, they do not indicate anything other than 3 things mentioned by Qatada, the tabi'i.